Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm Gus Sorola.
If you've been hungering for a healthy dose of odd-world problems like being the only person in your school without a Motorola Razr, because all the download speeds and the Xbox 360's red ring of death, all references that, well, God, I hope someone else gets those. Imagine a world where you can't stream TV online anymore.
Can we just stop with the aughts and get a better nickname for the early 2000s? Like the Knots?
Well, apparently in the UK they call it the Naughties, and that's way better.
What were we talking about? Oh, right. Cable companies should focus on changing that instead of what they're actually focusing on, like taking next-day streaming away from Hulu.
That's actually a real thing that could be happening soon. Apparently, Time Warner, in a desperate bid to keep people from getting rid of cable TV, is considering the option of buying enough Hulu stake to remove the ability for Hulu viewers to watch current season shows on the streaming service. That's like bad guy, like it's a supervillain level.
Yeah, absolutely. Like taking your cookie jar away. So to do this, Time Warner would have to buy 25% of Hulu outright. Once they had a controlling interest, they feel they'd be able to put a strike through Hulu's next-day streaming of premium TV content in a bid to drive viewers back into the decaying arms of cable television.
Wow.
Why don't they just... Seems like it would be cheaper and easier just to come up with a better business model. Maybe?
Nope.
Maybe to stay relevant?
Nope, apparently not. This is the opposite, by the way, of other companies like HBO's model. The premium network there has seen a ton of success with HBO Now. Their streaming-only service they launched specifically for the cord cutters that Time Warner wants to, cut.
Yeah, in general, you see more networks like ESPN, CBS, and others considering pulling away from the traditional cable model to provide their own streaming service. And considering BBC has pulled Doctor Who from both Netflix and Hulu,
Boo.
some are wondering if they're consolidating their own content to launch their streaming platform.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would like that. I like the BBC. That makes me feel smart and British. Naturally, this has cable companies scared out of their minds. According to a report from an investment firm last year, over 35,000 people are cutting the cord on cable every month, and a growing number of consumers just aren't taking up cable at all as they enter the market. They're just never paying for that subscription. So this is just the latest attempt to fight back. Last year, Comcast went so far as blocking HBO Go from working on PS4s, which seems like it should be totally illegal, but apparently it's not.
Dicks. And they're seriously trying to spin whatever they can to fight the perception that there's no more need for cable TV. Last quarter, Comcast had the most new TV subscribers it's had in 8 years, bringing in nearly 90,000 new subscribers.
Good job, guys.
Who are these people? They, of course, pumped this number to show that, see, cable's not going anywhere, guys. But they leave out the part where, for the year overall, they lost around 36,000 subscribers. Oops.
Well, that's a little bit different.
Maybe they check in the couch cushions. Maybe there's 36,000 TV subscribers in there.
I swear I left those somewhere. The really weird part of all this is how badly they're trying to hold on, but also just how bad the service is. Last year, dissatisfaction with subscription TV hit a 7-year low, according to the American Consumer Satisfaction Index.
And cable TV isn't only objectively bad in terms of its service, it's also getting more expensive than ever, despite there being more alternatives than ever before online. It's probably because they have less people, so they got to charge more. Research from the Leichtman Group shows that the average cable bill is $99, which is a 40% increase over the last 5 years.
Just keep trying to squeeze the blood out of that stone. That's remarkably similar to an Onion article that came out titled, "Nation's Cable Companies Announced They're Just Going to Take $100 from Everyone." Scary world when the satire is really just predictive news.
Yeah, and it seems like even Congress is over it. This week, 6 senators, including Bernie Sanders, feel the burn, y'all.
I always think, whenever I see his name, I just assume people are misspelling Bernie. It's weird. It's a weird election year.
So Bernie Sanders sent a letter to the FCC to complain about unfair billing practices by Comcast and a host of other cable TV providers. You're telling me an old man wrote a letter to complain?
The letter mostly focuses on the high price of cable box rentals, and oftentimes many consumers are charged for modem rental fees after they return the equipment or never even rented one in the first place. Comcast actually makes nearly $300 million just on cable box rental fees.
Damn. So why someone running for president of the United States has time to gripe about the price of DVRing Pretty Little Liars is a bit of a head scratcher, but someone's got to do it, and I'm too lazy to write a letter. I don't even
Look, old dudes, like you said, they're good at writing angry letters.
I don't have stamps.
Just let them do it. At the moment, next day streaming is the big advantage that Hulu has over other services. But without next day streaming, Hulu loses an edge that it currently has over Netflix with its timely distribution, unless maybe if Time Warner tried to do something like include a Hulu subscription with its TV packages, but that would be teaching consumers to access content online, so it seems kind of a long shot.
Yeah, the whole cable and ISP dilemma is really remarkable. Actually, when you think about it, what other industry can be so actively terrible to its customers while offering less services?
It takes a special one.
I don't know. Part of that has to do with monopolies each of these providers has in a given area thanks to the kickback deals they make with local government officials.
That's not us being conspiracy theorists, by the way. One of the biggest barriers to competition comes from local government, which controls access to rights of way, which is how these companies can set up their infrastructure in the first place, and local utilities charge exorbitant amounts for access to their poles to run cabling. And as a result, unless you have extreme leverage like Google, and they're using it with Google Fiber, you probably can't even afford to get started.
According to the FCC, 75% of Americans only have one broadband option, and competition is dwindling. Time Warner, the same lovely company trying to block Hulu's next-day streaming, is in the middle of a potential merger with Charter, which would make them the second biggest internet provider in the United States.
Ugh, seems like every time we take a couple of steps forward, an online streaming future looking so good, and then we'll take a couple steps back. Just pulling us back to the past, guys.
Just a few weeks ago, another group of U.S. senators sent a letter to the FCC complaining, and more old guys writing letters.
They love it. They love their old letters,
They
man.
sent a letter to the FCC complaining that the FCC's definition of acceptable broadband internet, 25 megabits, is just too damn fast.
That's 25 megabits. That's not megabytes.
It's about 3 megabytes a second, roughly.
They argued that since services like Netflix and Amazon only require speeds of 5 and 3.5 megabits respectively, there's no need to set broadband standards so darn high. Why would you need all that speed?
The broadband speed is too damn high. For now, Time Warner buyout isn't official. You'll still be able to enjoy next-day streaming on Hulu, but if anything, this shows just how desperate these companies are to keep your money.
On the flip side, more companies in charge of creating content are of the mindset that if they want you watching their content, they're going to find you wherever you are. And since you're online, they're all developing platforms to enable viewing that way.
And it's not an overnight process, and we'll continue to see these kinds of blocking maneuvers from access companies that want more control over the way that you access your content.
Right, so not over yet, but hopefully we'll get there. Eventually, we gotta wear them down. They're trying to squeeze blood from the stone, we're just gonna wear them down. So what do you guys think of Time Warner trying to block next day streaming on Hulu? I mean, we have a pretty good idea, but tell us what you think about it. But you should all tell us and Time Warner in your own words. Consider writing an angry letter. Apparently that's the thing people do. Plus, who's out there still subscribing to cable TV? I'd actually like to know who's doing that.
So for more updates on cable's fight against irrelevance and for support information on abusive cable relationships, like this video and subscribe to The Know.
There's probably a subreddit for that. Abusive cable relationships?
Yeah. I'm gonna Rule 34 Bernie Sanders.
Oh, God. Why would you do that, Gus?
I like old balls.
I'll bet it's interesting. They're old and elasticy.